Ciao amici, and welcome back to Experience Italy with Friends. Today we're excited to take you somewhere elegant, delicious, and a little mysterious. A region that's been part of our story since the very beginning of our relationship. We're calling this episode Rediscovering Piemonte, because even though our recent trip to Torino inspired it, our history with this region goes way back. And every time we return, we find something new to fall in love with. From the grand boulevards of Torino to the foggy Barolo hills and the peaceful northern lakes, Piemonte is one of Italy's most underrated gems. And we're excited to share why it deserves a spot on your itinerary. Let's get started.
Andiamo!
Experience Italy with Friends is a travel and lifestyle podcast where we will explore our favorite destinations and hidden gems, share key travel tips and cultural insights, and provide real-time updates about our move to this remarkable country. Join me, Tanya Razzo, an Italian travel expert and founder of Amici Vacations, and my Italian husband and producer, Davide Razzo, on a journey that is sure to inspire you and prepare you to create immersive and authentic experiences of your own in the beautiful country of Italy. Ciao, everyone, and welcome back. I'm Tanya, and as always, I'm here with my husband and co-host, Davide.
Ciao a tutti! So, today we're diving into a region we both love, il Piemonte. Like you said, it's elegant, it's delicious, and a little mysterious, and honestly, I think it's one of Italy's most underrated destinations.
And what's funny is, even though our most recent trip to Torino inspired this episode, our connection to Piemonte actually goes way back, like all the way to the beginning of our relationship. Did you remember that?
Yeah, it was 1998. Remember, we went to Milano. We talked about that trip. We went shopping for 7 hours. But on that trip, we actually ended up in Piemonte, in Borgomanero, near Lake of Orta, where my brother used to live. So, but you know what, Tanya? My history with Piemonte goes way, 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 way back because my dad, when he was 14, he went to Piemonte from Calabria to work. And he stayed there until he was like 17. And I asked him, why didn't you stay there? And he told me, well, I kind of want to avoid the draft, the military draft. So I escaped to Switzerland instead and said, that's why we ended up in Switzerland. So anyway.
That's an interesting anecdote. But, for me, it was my first time meeting your big brother. So it was a little nerve-wracking. I mean, we'd only been going out for a couple of months at this point, and taking a weekend trip to Milan and Lago di Orta was new for me. And, we had a great time, though. I mean, he took us out on the lake on a boat. It was March, a little chilly, I remember. And looking back at the pictures now, I had to go dig them up. I can't believe how young we look. I mean, seems like a lifetime ago. I wonder if the lake looks any older now, too.
I dare to post a picture on our Facebook page group, Experience Italy with Friends. But you're right. I mean, yeah, and since then we've been there a couple of times. Like we went there for truffle season in Alba. We went wine tasting, of course, in the Langhe. And now we went to Torino for the first time. And, every time we find something new, right?
Right. So today we're going to share, what makes Piemonte so special. We talked about the elegant cities, the wine towns, the food, the landscapes, and, why it absolutely deserves a spot on everyone's Italian itinerary at some point.
Yeah, but before we do that, as usual, let's give them an update on our lives here in Montepulciano, because our lives are always full of adventure, right?
They are. And, I have to first say, our last episode was really very well received. And, leave it to bathroom talk to get people's attention.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we did promise it would be funny. So,
Well, I'm starting to think we need to add one quirky Italian thing to every episode just to keep the laughs going. And, I realized we missed one quirky thing about Italy, and it hit me while I was driving home the other day, actually, after dropping you off at the airport.
yeah, wow. What's that?
Well, connected to our bathroom theme, it's not uncommon here to see men pulling over on the side of the road for a very casual pit stop, totally al fresco, you can say.
Yeah, I mean, when you gotta go, right? But yes, I noticed that too, and I don't know. I don't think I've seen it anywhere else but in Italy, where who cares? There's the emergency kind of niche that you can coast, park, do your business, and boom, go about your business, I guess.
Well, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a tiny bit jealous of how easy it is for you guys.
All right. Well, grazie for that image. Let's move on, though. So, as soon as we finished our last episode, we published it, we hopped on a train, and we're headed down south to my parents in Calabria.
Yep. It was a bit of a last-minute trip because we learned my permesso di soggiorno was finally ready for pickup.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, that's the Italy's equivalent of the U.S. green card. So, Tanya, now you're officially official. Congratulations.
Thank you, grazie. And, the funny part is, though, another classic Italian quirk is that we had been waiting months for any notification after my appointment in April. And then you randomly sent an email and they actually responded, which was sort of a surprise. And then they casually said, well, yeah, it's been here. Like, come pick it up.
I was shocked. Because I wrote them and my expectation was that, yeah, they're going to write me maybe in a month or so. They answered back within 2 hours.
Crazy.
With the email saying, oh, yeah, we got it here. Come pick it up. Then and then. It is so.
Well, I mean, thank God you did, because who knows if they would ever have contacted us if you hadn't told them.
Yeah. Anyway. But
we got it. The good news is I now have my card, and we also got a couple of nice days to spend with your parents and all of your mom's great cooking.
Yeah, she's amazing. But it was a short trip. So we got back home on Saturday, and then I hopped on a plane to come here to the US. I'm currently in the US doing a music production. And this is now our second time we are recording in 2 different continents. I think the first one was in May when you were in the US and I was in Italy. So now it's the opposite way.
Yep,
so,
and how's it going? Any reverse culture shock? And, I'm hearing a little bit of a cold in your voice.
Yes, the air is so dry here that I'm getting up in the morning and my voice is kind of deeper. So it's a broadcast voice.
Sounds a little stuffy though. So you might need to take some vitamins before you come back.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I'm enjoying being here. Work went well, but I'm ready to come back home. So, and of course, I am going to bring everything you ordered online.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I had to benefit from your trip to the US in some way. But while you've been gone, I've been holding down the fort here in Montepulciano, and have to say I've been getting a lot done. And I also have to admit that the apartment stays a little cleaner while you're gone.
Well, okay. Thank you for that. Speaking of apartments, we have no major updates on the purchase front. I guess a little hiccups, but hey, it's Italy. So you can expect that not everything is going down smooth. But fingers crossed, we'll have some real news next week. Hopefully.
So yes, life's been full, a little travel, a little bureaucracy, and a lot of good food as always. But hey, let's shift our attention north to Piemonte, a region that many travelers don't know much about. And, even though it played a huge role in Italy's history, it's actually the birthplace of Italian unification. I think you mentioned it in our last episode.
Hmm.
But today it's known for its elegant cities, the incredible wines that we'll talk about, and some of the best food traditions in the country. So, let's dive in.
Okay, so before we get into Torino and all the good stuff there, so everyone isn't totally sure where Piemonte is on the map, can you tell our audience where it is on the map?
Sure, I'll give a little geography lesson. And Piemonte sits up in the northwest corner of Italy. It borders France on the west, Switzerland on the north, and the region of Lombardy to the east. And fun fact, it's one of the very few Italian regions without any coastline. I mean, there's no beaches here, but trust me, you won't miss them.
No, you don't. So you won't, and because Piemonte has the most beautiful landscapes. They are so amazing. You got the Alps in the north, you got rolling vineyards, hills around Alba and Barolo, the beautiful lakes like the Lago Maggiore and Lago di Orta, and then of course Torino, which, honestly feels like a little Parisian, like a little Paris with its arcades and boulevards, but also what I noticed, Tanya, from the distance, it reminds me of Denver. Denver, and then in the background, mountains. Torino, and then backgrounds, the Alps.
True. I hadn't thought about that, but now that you mention it, I can see that. And
okay,
I know, but I think Torino has a little bit more refined elegance to it, a little bit more history to its architecture. And again, it was the first capital of unified Italy from 1861 to 1865. So this is literally where modern Italy began. And it's full of history, politics, culture, and an unbelievable food scene. And, we all know Piemonte is home to Barolo and Barbaresco wines, but it also has the famous white truffles from Alba that we've mentioned before. And hazelnuts, not a huge fan of hazelnuts, but learn they're from Piedmont, and chocolate, of course. So it's basically the gourmet heart of Italy.
You hit the spot for me, the food. But let's don't forget that Torino is also the birthplace of the car manufacturer Fiat. It's the center of Italy's auto industry. So the region has this really interesting mix of innovation and, deep traditions.
No, I agree. And, that's what I love about Piemonte. It's elegant and thoughtful, but also very real and down to earth. And, the pace there is slower, calmer, and it feels way less discovered compared to places like Tuscany or the Amalfi Coast. So let's start our Piemonte conversation with Torino, because, that's the trip that inspired this episode.
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned last time, the whole reason for this trip was my birthday, and we finally got to go to a Juventus game. I mean, it took only, 25 years,
That's not long to wait, is it?
It kind of is, so.
Better late than never. So,
True.
as we mentioned before, we took the train up to Torino, and we learned pretty quickly that the city has two main train stations, Porta Nuova, the big central one, and Porta Susa. We arrived at Porta Susa, the newer of Torino's two major stations. It's sleek, modern, and honestly really easy to navigate. And if you're taking the high-speed train from Milan or Paris, this is probably where you'll land.
Yeah. The only downside is we only had a full day to explore. So we did what we love most. We did a big walking tour. We didn't go to museums or, we just enjoyed the architecture outside, the piazzas and the vibe,
Yeah, I know we love doing that. Just show up, stroll around. And what I loved is that Turin is famous for its grand piazzas. And so we organized a walking tour sort of to the main ones. And our first was the Piazza Statuto, a really elegant square with arcades all around. And when we say arcades, visualize, it's all these porticos, similar to Bologna, they have all these covered walkways, but also tons of arches on the front of the buildings. And so it just adds that elegant feel to the architecture. And, in this piazza, it also had this dramatic monument in the center of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a sculpture dedicated to the workers who died building the Frejus tunnel through the Alps. I mean, it looks like a giant pile of rocks with fallen figures. Kind of a little haunting, but it was very impressive. I sent a picture to my dad, so.
Right. It was. And it felt, I don't know, it strikes a chord that with every great innovation, someone had to, I guess, suffer a loss. And so it was nice to
Hmm.
see a monument pay tribute to them, but also a little sad.
Yeah.
So from there, we walked down via Garibaldi, one of the longest pedestrian streets in Europe. It has tons of shops and bakeries. And, I'm not kidding. I stopped like every 20 feet to look in a window and was tempted to go in and go shopping.
Yeah, you did. And I had to keep dragging you forward because we only had so much time. But, I love the musicians, being a musician myself. But there were some, classical musicians performing all over the city, violins, cellos, with Bocelli music in the background. It made the whole walk feel like we're in a movie. That's how I felt like.
Totally. I completely agree with that. And, then our stroll led us right into Piazza Castello, the heart of Torino. And, it's a massive square and framed by beautiful buildings.
On one side, you had the Palazzo Madama, which is an UNESCO site. The facade is gorgeous, or it will be once the scaffolding is down and it's finished. So we will have to wait for that, Tanya. Next time we will see it.
I know, we always get this luxury of seeing scaffolding and all the mesh ruin some of our pictures. But thankfully, on the other side of the piazza was the Palazzo Reale, the House of Savoy, Italy's royal family. Like, I always forget that Italy was once, a monarchy and had all these royal families. And so it was cool to see this beautiful palace right in the middle of the city and picture the royalty that lived inside. And we didn't go inside the palace, but we went through it, to the courtyard and gardens that were behind it. And it was such a peaceful surprise, especially right in the middle of a city to see these gardens and the trees, the fall colors. And it was really, a quiet escape right in the middle of the city.
Yeah, it was beautiful. But then we got hungry. Shocker. So
yes, well, for your birthday lunch, we went to La Farcia Trattoria and it was amazing. The neighborhood was cute and the food, Piemonte really knows what it's doing.
Yeah, so we had vitello tonnato, which is a classic dish from Piemonte, which is actually a classic veal scallop with a tuna caper sauce.
It's so good.
And then I had a tagliolini with a great ragu sauce. So the tagliolini is a pasta they make there, and they use like 40 eggs to make a batch of it. They even had like a picture, shown with the 40 eggs in the flour well, and it was so good. Then you had a pumpkin soup without some fun topics on top of that.
Oh my God, it was the best soup ever. Like, I'm still thinking about it, and I took a picture of it and also the menu because I'm hoping you can try to recreate this dish for me someday because it had this amazing stracciatella cheese on top of it, some almonds, other spices. Gosh, it was the best soup.
Sure, I'll make it for you. I'll have to find the recipe, but I'll probably will be able to recreate it.
Okay, looking forward to it. So, continuing with our walk around the city, after lunch, we walked to Piazza San Carlo. And, honestly, this was my favorite spot of the day.
Yeah, it was so elegant. Again, the arcades, those porticos all around, twin Baroque churches at one end. It's called Il Salotto di Torino, which, it translates it into Turin's living room. And when you're there, you can see why.
Yes, exactly. We grabbed a table outside at a historic cafe, sat in the sun. It was surprisingly a blue sky, sunny day. And we just sat there listening to a violinist playing in the piazza. And it reminded me of sitting in the Piazza San Marco in Venice. A very similar vibe, classic, atmospheric. Like, it just felt magical. Again, I was like, we're sitting here with a drink, listening to a violinist in this beautiful place. Pinch me.
Very chill. It was awesome. So anyway, so we kept wandering around and, we admired more of the city's architecture. I mean, Torino is really well planned. It has long boulevards. I mean, perfect symmetry, like very baroque.
Yeah, I was surprised by that, but it was noted in, some of the research I was doing that it's one of the very first kind of like modernly planned cities. And you could see that. And yep. And so we continued to walk around and we did hit one museum, at least from the outside, the Museo del Risorgimento, which had a really impressive facade. So next time we definitely have to go in because I was reading, it tells the story of Italy's unification. And it would have been fun to read more about that history. I mean, I know you were talking about it a lot as we were walking around and giving tidbits, but wanting to know a little bit more. So we'll have to go there next time.
Yeah, we should. I mean, I'm really kind of like a history buff, and yeah, we need to go back. But then we stumbled on the Galleria Subalpina, and we found the famous Caffè Baratti, and Milano.
Yeah, it was so cute. Like, I didn't know what it was at first. Like, we stopped into this, like, it's kind of like this conservatory. And it had all these, like, planters and flowers. And I'm like, what is this place? And when I saw the cafe, I'm like, look how cute this thing is. And I was taking pictures of it. And then I realized it was the famous Baratti Cafe. And it felt like stepping into the 1930s. Like, it had all this polished mahogany wood, the brass fixtures, chandeliers, mirrors. Like I was telling you, like I could picture people in like elegant suits having meetings and shopping like way back in the 1930s and their top hats and having like this elegant tea sitting there in the conservatory. And it was so nostalgic.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it reminded me of Paris, the old Paris. That's why we kind of said it in the beginning.
Yeah.
It looks very Paris-like. So, but, it was beautiful. We got tired though. We had one more big stop to do that was a must, which is to go to see the Mole Antonelliana, which is Torino's symbol, right?
Right. I mean, it's such a strange and beautiful building. Like you guys, you have to picture this huge tower. And I mean, from a distance, it looks like it's just this massive steeple. But it's a tower with a sort of neoclassical like temple built into the middle of it. So like picture like this Greek temple. And you don't see it from a distance, but when you're close up, you're like, wow, in the middle of the steeple is this temple, which if it were on the ground, I think would be quite big. And I learned it was originally meant to be a synagogue, and then it became this national monument, and now it houses the cinema museum.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that. And you know more than I do.
For once.
But so I heard that, you can go on the top of the thing, and we got there a little bit too late to take that elevator that brings you up. So I'm kind of kicking myself about it. But next time,
I know now
so we need to spend a little bit more time in Torino next time.
We do, and I missed that because it would have had like this amazing views of the Alps and the city. I mean, it must be incredible. I mean, what we saw even from down below, from the outside, you could see the Alps. I could only imagine what it looked like way up there on the top of that steeple.
Yeah, probably need to go in spring when it's not foggy. Anyway, but we then walked straight down to the Po River when the sun was setting to catch the sunset.
Gosh, we did luck out on that aspect that we got there at the perfect timing because across from it, you can see like these two big churches in the distance. Like one is right across the river called the Church of Santa Maria del Monte dei Cappuccini. Ooh, wow, what a mouthful.
Brava.
And then further out was this impressive basilica of Superga, which, looks down over the whole city. And had we been there, I'm sure both would have had amazing viewpoints of the city. So, we didn't have time to do it, but our listeners, if you're going to Torino, make sure you go to either one of these lookout points, and we're going to have to put it down for our next trip.
Yeah, I got some memories about the Basilica of Superga. When I was little and my dad went to visit his brother in Torino, which he used to live there. We were on our way to the Basilica of Superga, and then we got in a car accident.
Oh, no.
And so we never made it up there. Yeah, kind of sad, but nobody got hurt, luckily. But the car was not drivable anymore. Yeah, and then there's another sad fact about the Basilica of Superga. the team of AC Torino, not Juventus, AC Torino. That's the other team in Torino. In the 40s, I believe, they were on a plane and it crashed nearby there.
Oh no!
So and it used to be the most powerful team, the best team at that time in Italy, and so that whole team died.
Oh my gosh!
So so they had to rebuild. So
okay,
another
both of these
sad fact.
stories you did not share with me when we were there. So thanks for saving it for the podcast.
That's what I wanted. So mission accomplished.
Wow. No, I did not know any of that. I was just noticing this beautiful basilica in the distance, and I enjoyed being down by the water, at sunset, and you could see it reflecting off the water and the Alps in the back. And I think I would have been sad had you told me these stories then.
Yeah. No, I didn't want to kill the mood. And I hope it didn't kill the mood now. So let's keep going, Tanya.
Okay,
let's keep going.
Another thing we missed. So in our one day, so I think you're hearing maybe one day is a little bit too short to really see everything in this beautiful city. But if we had stayed a little bit more time, we would have seen the Egyptian Museum. And when you were on the phone with your aunt, she was pointing out that we should do that. And I was reading, one of the most important Egyptian museums in the world, second only to Cairo. So again, add it to the list.
Add it to the list. But maybe if it's not for, the museum and all the city again, maybe we should just go back to see a Juventus game.
Yeah, I'm sure it won't take much convincing to make you do that.
Exactly.
So, we had a great day in Torino. I really enjoyed it. And, we've taken everybody through Piemonte's elegant, underrated capital, but the region has so much more to offer. So let's continue on. And, if you head just an hour or so south of the city, you reach one of our favorite places, the Langhe wine region.
Oh, yeah, Tanya. Barolo country. That's now you're speaking my language.
I knew that would wake you up. We first went there back in October 2014 with your family. Everybody went. It was a fun little family trip. And it was the perfect time because we managed to time it with the Alba Truffle Fair.
Yeah, it was amazing because, the Alba Truffle Fair is like, it has huge tents in the middle of the town, and it, full of truffle hunters, cheesemakers, winemakers, and that distinctive truffle smell everywhere.
Oh, it just constantly made you hungry. I mean, it was such a sensory experience. They had demonstrations, tastings, truffle dogs. You could just feel the excitement in the air. And, the town of Alba itself is really charming. It was, cobblestone streets, elegant shops, medieval towers, and this really cozy, almost storybook vibe.
Yeah, but let's be honest, Tanya. People go there for two things: the great food and the great wine. So,
okay, exactly. Keep me honest. But Langhe is pure heaven for that. Let's talk wine, Davide, because this is your happy place.
Oh yeah. So Piemonte is home for two great giants: the Barolo that everyone knows, and then the Barbaresco that not many know. Both it's made from the Nebbiolo grape. The Barolo is the king, which is very powerful, complex. The Barbaresco is a little bit more elegant. It opens up sooner. And if you love structured wines with character, that is heaven.
So, Davide, not to put you on the spot, but would you pick a Barolo or a Brunello?
Did you just say Brunello from Montalcino? Okay, so, both wines they're so different. I love them both. But I think the Barolo is a little bit more smooth than the Brunello. Brunello has more character than the Barolo, in my opinion. Always in my opinion. So, but both great wines.
Okay, so you won't pick one over the other.
No, but can I add something? It's not just Barolo and Barbaresco that Piemonte is known for. They have so many other wines like the Barbera, which is a little bit more affordable, or the Dolcetto d'Alba, for example. And then they have also a white wine, which is called the Moscato d'Asti, which is also very nice. So,
well, I can definitely hear that I hit your sweet spot of talking about wine, but let's talk about the area that these wines come from and the landscape. It is beautiful that there are these endless vine-covered hills, little medieval villages, and the prettiest hilltop castles. Not the fortress-style ones we see here in Tuscany, but these are more like the fairy tale Cinderella ones, and it's pretty stunning.
Yeah. I mean, it feels different than Tuscany. Tuscany is sunny and wide open. The Langhe is, more foggy. I would say it has more mood. In the fall, sometimes everything is covered and, suddenly you see like a castle peeking through the fog. I think it's really cool, so.
I agree. I love that. And, I had a client recently stay there just south of Alba in September and at a beautiful wine resort. And they said it was the most relaxing part of their entire Italy trip. And they loved the good food, the good wine, the gorgeous views. The whole area just worked for a perfect trip.
Yeah, and for me, that's why people should go. It's beautiful. The wine is amazing. The food is amazing. It's not crowded like in Tuscany. You can relax. You can eat well, drink well, and just enjoy to be there. And I think it's something special.
No, I agree. And, we've covered now Torino. We went south to Langhe. But, Piemonte also stretches north. And, it's a whole different world up there. We have lakes, mountains, and that slower alpine pace. And, actually, this was our very first experience with Piemonte, as we started the episode describing.
Yeah, back in 1998, Lago di Orta. For English-speaking people, it's the Lake Orta.
Exactly. And, Lake Orta is still one of the most peaceful lakes I've ever been to. It's much smaller and quieter than Lake Como, and it has this almost magical mix of Swiss views and Italian charm. You look around, you see the Alps, but then you sit down to an incredible Italian food. So it's really the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and it's not as crowded, Orta San Giulio is the main town there. And I actually went there with my brother the first time because his company from Switzerland was sending him there. So one day I just, went along and then he decided to go and move there. So, but anyway, so San Giulio, Orta San Giulio has this little island on the lake with a little monastery. And I mean, that whole place feels like time stopped. It's very calm. And it's beautiful also to ride with your bike.
Oh,
it's
really?
Beautiful. Yes, it's. I've done it with my friends there. One year we just brought our bikes and we biked the whole lake.
Oh, beautiful. We went in early spring. It was March. And so it was still chilly and sleepy. But even then I remember thinking, I want to come back here someday in warmer weather. It was so lovely. So maybe we'll have to go back and go biking.
Okay.
And, since we're talking about lakes, we have to mention Lago Maggiore, one of the most iconic lakes in Italy. It's actually the second largest in the country, stretching into Switzerland. And, it's famous for beautiful villas, gardens, and the Borromean Islands.
Yeah, the Lago Maggiore is great. Stresa, Verbania. Those towns are very elegant, very classic. People sometimes choose it over Como because it's less flashy, more relaxed, less crowded,
No, that's always a perk, especially if you're coming here in high season. You don't want to be around, the crowds of Como. I think Piemonte and Lago Maggiore and Lago di Orta really offer a similar but less touristy vibe overall.
Yes.
And
yes.
Then we have to mention, north of the lakes, you get into some serious mountain country.
Yep. Ideal for skiing. I used to go skiing near the Swiss border in Crevacol. I don't know if that is technically Val d'Aosta, but Piemonte offers a lot of the skiing there, like in Courmayeur, Sestriere, Bardonecchia. And then also, both of those are part of like the Via Lattea, the Milky Way ski area. It's a huge resort there. But also there's you can go from the Matterhorn in Switzerland, which borders right with Piemonte. You can start there and go down the Italian side. I do believe you can get into Sestriere. And we got to do that. We have to do this. It's like on the bucket list already. And friends already sent us some Instagram reels about it. We got to do that.
Hey, you don't have to twist my arm though. But didn't you also say that the Italian ski resorts are, just as good, but also cheaper than skiing in Switzerland?
Yes, that's why we went to Italy, because it was cheaper. A ski pass in Switzerland, you end up paying about 100, 150 francs a day. And in Italy, they are, like in Sestriere, maybe you pay 75 euros. But like in Crevacol, which is a smaller resort, it was like 25 bucks.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So it's a better value skiing with just as beautiful Alps. So, okay,
yeah,
let's go.
Exactly.
So, as you can tell, whether you're into lakeside walks, ski trips, beautiful gardens, or just quiet travel, Northern Piemonte really has something for everyone. And it's the part of the region people tend to overlook, but it's absolutely worth adding to an itinerary.
Yes, especially to go see a Juventus game.
Go Juventus!
Yes. Well, all right. I think, we're at the end of this episode, right, Tanya?
Mm-hmm.
And we cannot finish this episode without your tips from Tanya. So, amore, tips from Tanya. For anyone dreaming of Piemonte, what should they keep in mind?
Thanks, Davide. Well, Piemonte is one of those regions where a little planning goes a long way. So here are a few key tips to make the most of your visit. Tip number 1, choose the right base. I recommend either Torino or Alba. And it really depends on the kind of trip you want, how to pick one over the other. If you love cities, the museums, the architecture, the cafes, culture, Torino is perfect. As we talked about, it's elegant, walkable, and it really makes a great hub for a lot of day trips, whether you're going north or south. And, picturing in the region that Torino is almost like smack in the middle. So it's a great central location. But if your trip is going to be all about wine, food, and views, and you want a slower pace, then base yourself in or around Alba. That puts you right in the heart of the Langhe Hills, the Barolo, the Barbaresco, truffles, everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually 2 different trips. It's the same region, but completely 2 different vibes.
Right. Neither one is better than the other. It just has to be what you're in the mood for.
Exactly.
Okay, so then let's move on to tip number 2. Pick the right season. And, timing matters when you're talking about this region because it's very seasonal. If you're going in winter, it's fantastic. If you're, into skiing, it's a great time to go. Piemonte, as we just talked about, has some great alpine resorts. But, spring and summer are ideal for hiking, for lake life, and those long scenic drives. So that's a wonderful time to experience Piemonte. But as we've mentioned, fall, as with everywhere in the world, fall is where the magic is. And here in Piemonte, it's the harvest season. The vineyards turn gold and red, and it's peak truffle season. So it's a really atmospheric time to visit, but it's also the busiest.
Yeah, and I mean, if I can be honest too, you can also rent a car and drive yourself there. I think it's way easier to drive in Piemonte than driving in Tuscany or even the Costa Amalfitana.
Comparison.
So do it. Rent a car there.
Yes, I would agree. Drive around, just slow travel. Stop when the moment strikes. And visit one of these cute towns or one of those amazing castles we talked about. But let's move on to tip number 3 then. If you're going to come here in the fall, make sure to book your truffle experiences, wine tastings, and boutique hotels early. They really fill up fast, especially during the Alba Truffle Fair that we've talked about. And don't forget, fall in Piedmont looks cozy, but it can be chilly, misty, and damp, all that fog we talked about. So make sure to bring layers, a warm sweater, and comfortable shoes for the vineyard walks.
Yeah, so basically plan ahead, but expect to slow down once you're there.
Exactly. So, Amici, that wraps up our journey through Piemonte, a region that's elegant without trying, delicious without effort, and full of surprises no matter how many times you visit.
Yeah. And every time we go, we discover something new, like a new Juventus game. I meant to say like a new piazza, wine, or a little street cafe. Piemonte always has more.
I agree, but I love your dedication to Juventus, Davide. And, for others, if this episode inspired you to add Torino, the Langhe, or the Northern Lakes to your next Italy trip, I'd love to help you plan it. This region is all about savoring, slowing down, and experience Italy in a deeper way.
And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, to follow, rate us, tell us what you think. Tell us what we do good and what we do not so good. Share it with your friends that love Italy, and be sure to check out our Facebook group page, Experience Italy with Friends. Tanya is going to post pics from our first trip, so you will see young Davide and Tanya.
And as I was looking at those pictures, young Davide and Tanya with more hair and bushier hair.
Yes.
So be sure to head over to check us out. And, grazie mille for listening. As always, we'll be back with more stories, tips, and inspiration. Until then, ci sentiamo.
Ci sentiamo. Ciao.
Ciao amici. Arrivederci. We hope you've enjoyed Experience Italy with Friends. If you like the podcast, remember to follow us and leave a review letting us know what you found to be the most helpful. And if you want expert advice or assistance in creating your own immersive and authentic experience in Italy, visit us at www.amicivacations.com.